Hello, everyone, and welcome to Chirping Zebras, Episode 7. Mark Riley, alongside Gino Bender Jr., and we have a great episode tonight, and we're going to get to our guest in a minute. First, we want to acknowledge our sponsors. We're coming to you from AOA Studios, best studio around. Moby Cuts, our favorite barbershop in the country, right here in Beverly. We have a new sponsor, Barati Irrigation, out of Canton. Our good friend Gabe, and also, of course, Referees Crease, the premier developer and assigner of referees worldwide.
Right on. That's a great intro.
Wasn't that good?
Yeah.
And before we bring our guest on, there's one thing. I did a college game last night.
Okay,
and I have to get this off my chest. At your alma mater.
Oh, Salve.
Salve Regina.
Nice.
And it was Wentworth Salve. It was a playoff game.
Oh, Wentworth.
I just got to the point, and I thought of you because I remember you saying it was death by 1,000 paper cuts.
Yes.
That's what got you to say that's it.
Yep.
Right?
I had enough of the whining.
I couldn't stop. I don't know how many times I heard from someone. Is that really a rule? Is that a rule? Is that sure? Like,
come on.
And finally, I looked at the captain. Asked me, and I said, "Hey, kid, my helmet is older than you. Why do you think?" Because I had a Nike bucket. I meant to bring it today. Why do you think I don't know the rules? Like, why don't you trust me? And I even said to the coach, maybe you should think about how you talk to us. Then maybe your players won't run their mouths so much.
Right.
Oh, it's pissing me off.
Like the coaches that yell and scream, and then the players are yelling and screaming at you, and you're going, well, there's a direct reflection of the coach, right?
That's what it was.
I can't stand that.
It was, so the captain ends up taking a penalty. 5 minutes left. It's a tied game. And then Wentworth takes a penalty. So it's 4-on-4, and Salve scores.
Nice.
So the captain decides he wants to come out of the box and celebrate. So he steps halfway out of the box.
Come on.
I said, hey, get back in that box. He said, I'm trying to celebrate. I said, no, get back in the box.
So he doesn't get back in.
Says no. High fives his friends. Bink, I give him the dime. And now he's got to sit there for the last 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And you know, the coach like, he didn't open the door. I said, I don't care. I told him to get back in. He didn't. And then not 2 minutes later, their assistant captain, who I dinged the last time I was there, he tells Connor Foley, who's a great linesman in the system, right? One of the best linesmen. I was with him, and Evan Reddick was my partner, and Cam Antonellis was the other linesman.
18.
They did a great job, right? But he tells Foley goes, let's go to the box. He goes, get the fuck out of my face. You guys fucking suck. So Foley bangs him.
Nice.
I've never been more excited to see a linesman hit his hips.
No kidding.
Oh, I couldn't get back. I couldn't get over there fast enough to give that kid the misconduct. And I just don't get why college players don't just shut the fuck up.
Well, I'll tell you, because I was a 19, 20-year-old college player, and
so
I didn't shut the fuck up. No. I had four 10-minute misconducts my freshman year. 4. That's 40 minutes just sitting there. My parents drove up to Plymouth State.
Terrible ride.
Yeah, long ride for me to sit in the box for 10 minutes. My mother wasn't happy with me. And then the other one, I was in prep school one time. She drove down to South Kent, which is, 3.5 hours. Least. I got thrown out at the end of the first period. Yeah, she wasn't happy about that. But at any rate, but the coaches, right, they always, this is a playoff game. Oh, why are you going to call that? Why are you going to call 10 minutes? Why is it my fault?
Right.
Why aren't you yelling at your player because he didn't listen to your instructions to get back into the box?
Right.
So, I always put it right back on the coaches.
Yep.
Hey, this ain't my fault, dude. I gave him all the rope. How many times do I got to tell him before now I have to do something, right? Because the other coach has seen it. So if I let that go, what kind of...
Then it's chaos.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I remember Plymouth State used to have just a roof over their rink.
Yes.
No
walls.
It was
freezing. Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God. We drove up there one time, and it was like a negative 20 wind chill factor.
Best ice in the league.
Oh, it was awesome ice.
It was the best ice. I always have my skating legs up there, and I was
awesome
so mad
ice.
when I got that 10, too. Like, you're flying, you're buzzing around, you're just feeling it.
Well, you must have froze your ass off in the penalty box.
Yeah, actually, they had all the construction. It was different.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a lot.
Because I remember you get the good sweat go. You try to get the good sweat going in warm-ups,
Right.
So I play a regular shift first period. Start the second period, we're going, because I was like third, fourth line. This was my sophomore year, I think, maybe my junior year. And next thing you know, we don't play. And literally ice formed on my head inside my helmet. Needless to say, that was not a fun ride home. Back to the 2.5 hours or whatever, back to Curry. But
still freezing. Yeah.
Yeah. So
you were talking about the players complaining about rules. There was one night I was early on in my NCAC career. I was with I think it was Paul Carnathan, linesman, right? He's awesome.
Yeah.
So he's standing there. I'm getting a whole bunch of flack from the Western Michigan bench. Andy Murray, former NHL coach, is on there. He always played games with you. He'd always play Mickey the Dunce and act like he didn't know the rule and just try to make sure that you did. Right. So the assistant coach tried that with me, and I didn't know their game yet because I was fresh in the league. I was just like, I'm like, Dave, that's not a rule. I go, that's the wrong rule. And then he did it again in the second period. And I go, hey, Dave, I go, guess what? I go, third period, I'm going to bring you out a rule book so you can stop asking me dumb questions.
That's awesome.
And Carney was like, did you just chirp? I was like, absolutely did.
I actually brought the rule. You know how they have it on the phone now, the mobile book?
Oh, yeah.
I did a junior game a couple of years ago. And
That's a good cheat sheet.
Oh, yeah. And a kid slashed at the goalie. And the coach was convinced it didn't hit him. And I said, doesn't have to hit him. He only has to make the slashing motion. That's not the way the rule is, blah, blah, blah. We're in Walpole. So I go in, I get the book, and I pull it up, and I skate out for the next period. I go, hey, coach, do me a favor. You can read, right? And he goes, yeah. I go, can you read that first line for me for slashing? And he just, like, steps and walks away. I go, exactly.
Right.
And, like, you wish you could do that more. You know what I mean?
I don't understand why they're always trying to get like one up on you. Like I'm out here making decisions left and right. Like you think I'm really here to just stick it up you whatever tonight, and I just go out there and call it as I see him. And sometimes I don't get a good look, so I'm not going to react to it. Like yesterday, I was at a junior showcase, and there was a slash, and then an elbow, and then a kid gets cross-checked through the open door, right? So. I mean, you got a linesman, you got referees, you got coaches, you got another coach, you got this, that, and the other thing. There's a lot going on in that instance, right? So now the referee's got to come together. I'm sitting there going, I'm watching it. I'm like, this is taking way too long. I go, you need to figure this out quick, right? So now the referees go in the room. They come back out for the second period, and like it's a showcase, so I'm in and out, right? And I just happen to be walking by, and the coach approaches the referees and goes, how do you call that a slash? It was an elbow. And he goes, well, yeah, it was a major elbow. We called the major elbow. He goes, well, you told me it was a slash. I go, well, now we're talking semantics here. Right. I go, the slash started it back there that the referee didn't call because it was a minor penalty that he missed. And I go, and then the kid elbowed him in the head, and then your guy got cross-checked through the door. Right. So I go, there's your match of majors, right? So I was like, now you're arguing semantics. I was like, get over it. And here I am arguing a coach in between periods.
Yeah.
I'm like, what am I doing?
Well, I had to share this before we bring our guest on. Last night during the game, the pins kept coming, the net kept coming off the pins when Wentworth was down in the second period. So, of course, the Salve coach can't understand why it's not a penalty. And I said, it's your home building. I'm like, you're the one that gets the pin, the pegs. Right. Right? And then Connor Foley says, they should be drilled. So I go over, I go, the posts are supposed to be drilled. That's in the rule book. He goes, no one drills them. Not in this league. There's only one league.
Yeah, the D3 gets a waiver, I believe.
Well, he said not in this league.
They have to have a certain level of pegs.
We go in the room, and I'm praying. I called you, and you go, first time the net comes off a Salve, just call him for a penalty and say, hey, you wanted me to call it, right? But sure enough, it did. But I wanted him to yell at about it because we looked up the rule. Yeah. Connor did. I didn't. And I was going to say 2.1 says they got to be drilled, and if they're not drilled, the post has to be 8 to 10 inches long. And I was going to say to him, I know 8 inches, and that post ain't 8 inches. And Reddick goes,
the Catholic school.
I said, Reddick, you want to be with me. So when I say that, and you can just say, he does know 8 inches. And then I was hoping the coach would be like, oh, yeah, sure you do. I go, no, not me. I watch gay porn. But that didn't happen, unfortunately. So
that's the comedian in it.
But that would have been hilarious. Yeah, I'm sure I would have got a letter.
You should use that.
Well, that's a good. I don't know why that's a good lead into our guest. It's not, but we have a very special guest tonight. So happy that he could join us. He's I think an inspirational story for many reasons, and we'll get into it.
Yep.
But many people know him as the Goon.
Yep.
He's known as Doug the Thug. We want to welcome our special guest, Doug Smith, today to Chirping Zebras. Dougie, welcome, my man.
Thanks, boys.
How are we doing?
Like it.
I didn't mean to tell that story right before you came on.
Well,
but
yeah, I mean, the gay porn reference to the movie was the movie, and not anything to do with my life.
Well, your movie, I want to bring up your movie right away, The Goon. Okay. I actually watched it today because I hadn't watched it.
Why would you do that to yourself?
Well, what's funny is I'm so glad I didn't watch it before I met you. because we met a couple of years ago at the Bowl for a Bruin thing. You were bowling next to me.
Correct.
If I had seen that movie before I met you, I would have been like, how is this guy even like doing anything? Because you were like Forrest Gump on skates in that movie.
Yeah, I know.
And
That's a great way to
what were they thinking?
I don't know. I mean, listen, I know I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer, but, I was saying to some people, before, when I first saw the premiere of that movie in Toronto, my wife and I were invited up by the cast and the directors and the producers, and we got to meet everyone, all the actors. They were great. And after watching the movie for the first time, my wife turns to me and she goes, "You're ruined for life." And I'm like, I know, look at the character. I mean, he was a nice guy, but
Right.
I mean, dumb as a bag of rocks. And I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And I mean, you make the best
It's
of it.
Hollywood.
It's Hollywood, right?
Yeah.
And again, I've said it to other people. It wasn't the Doug Smith story, even though my book was an autobiography, and they based the movie off it. I mean, they could have made the character, I don't know, a little more normal.
Right? I thought he was going to pull a dead mouse out of his pocket like Lenny from Of Mice and Men. You know what I mean? That's the kind of character he was. I was like, what did they do this for?
Right.
And I remember you saying some of the fight scenes you wanted to be authentic because, hockey fight scenes in movies aren't always like they really are.
Right.
And I think some of them were, but some of them were. Like when you did that whole ninja thing and took out the whole team when you first went on the ice, I was like, you kicked a guy in the chest with your skate.
Yeah, exactly.
That's Hollywood right there.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the stick throwing and the kicking, I mean, that's their...
Right.
That's their script,
Right.
And they were trying to make a funny movie, and I get that. They were trying to do things that, you don't see on a normal basis, say, in a hockey game or a hockey fight or whatever. Right. And again, they're probably playing to his character, meaning like he's kind of a dimwit.
Right.
He's just doing anything he can to survive. But you're right. I mean, it's slapstick in a sense.
Yeah, I believe they call it poetic license, right? Is that what they? Now the last fight scene, obviously you got to fight, the villain.
Yeah,
All
Ross
right?
the boss.
Right, Ross the boss. And I liken it to Youngblood fighting Racky.
Sure.
Remember when he
Yeah.
had?
I
he
met
had a
Racky
fight.
before.
Yeah,
Did you
I
really?
have to.
Racky's
real
great.
good guy.
He's
a real
awesome.
good guy.
So I was up in where was I? I was in Bingo,
Yeah.
and Hop Daddy brings him to the game. So I got a picture with me and him afterwards in Binghamton.
Yeah.
The next morning, I'm staying in Utica because I'm there the next day or whatever. I meet Hop Daddy for breakfast. In comes walking Racky with a signed copy of Youngblood. I was like, "This is awesome!"
Yeah.
Oh,
like
that's
just
wild.
like the stuff the people you meet on the road, and like
course.
he was telling about his movie,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
Rob Lowe and how he
Yep.
was absolutely mental.
Right. Yeah.
It was so cool to meet
and I
him,
can
right?
relate to that. I mean,
Awesome
again,
guy.
he's a regular. He did play real hockey.
Yeah, he was a
And
hockey player.
He
Yeah,
was, and he played physical, and he's a big guy. I've met him before. His name's George. I forget his
Yes, George. I'm
George
Hagel,
Finn, right?
No,
George Finn.
George
Yeah,
Finn.
I'm friends with him on Facebook.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
hell of a guy. And again, like you said, you get to meet these people, and you're like, you know what? He's actually a really great guy.
Awesome guy.
Yeah.
Had some good stories. I just
Yeah.
sat at breakfast for like 2 hours. It was awesome. Just kept pouring coffee.
Well, there's two things in the Youngblood movie that were a little far-fetched. One, Rob Lowe beating Racky.
Sure.
And
Yes.
two, him getting Cynthia Gibb. One of my favorite movies, scenes ever. But anyway, I digress. So that final scene, though, the ankle thing, that whole thing, I mean, that was a little
That
over the
wouldn't
top.
happen to me because I used to put up on I don't know, 2 rolls of tape around my ankles so I wouldn't fall down.
Yeah,
so I
yeah.
would never snap my ankles. But again, that's Hollywood script.
Right.
Who would ever think about putting that into the fight scene? I don't know. But you know what? It is what it is.
Well, like,
he ends up winning on a broken leg.
Yeah, I mean, that would never happen.
Right.
Right? I mean,
I've seen a Celtic kid fight with a broken. He broke his leg on the ice, and then he like in Merrimack, and he's hopping off. It was hockey night in Boston.
Right.
He was coming off. The kid was waiting for him.
Oh wow.
Yep. His legs in two. He's taking a left, and he's fighting still. I'm like, what the hell?
wow.
Fantastic.
Well, that
typical
checks out.
Celtic kid.
That
Right,
checks out.
right.
We should mention, now that we're talking about movies, the world lost Paul D'Amato, who played Tim Dr. Hook McCracken in Slapshot.
Yeah.
And
Just passed away on
just
Monday.
passed away, yeah.
75 years old. He had a very rare brain disease.
Really?
I had just seen him. I had done a fundraiser with him not too long ago. And like a blink of an eye, he just went downhill quickly. and he was never going to rebound.
Right.
So it was very sad for him and his family to have to, his family, I should say, to have to watch him kind of deteriorate.
Yeah.
But another great
guy.
Really good guy.
I got to meet him at a golf tournament a few years back, and we ended up back at one of the guys' houses in the backyard, and just sitting there sharing stories and stuff. And
that's another real Hollywood actor, right? Yeah. He was in some huge movies, Academy Award winners in the 70s, Deer Hunter.
Oh, no kidding. I didn't realize that.
Yep, and he was a real Broadway actor, which is where he met his wife Marina, or a longtime girlfriend, I should say. But he was like a very established actor.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he was really connected.
Yeah. No, it's too bad. And of course that movie, best hockey movie ever made.
Of course.
Oh, that
nothing's gonna beat that.
No offense to Goon.
No, of course not. I mean, let's face it. I mean, Slapshot will always be king.
Yeah.
It has to be, right?
Yeah.
I've always said that's number one. Like,
And I don't even know if Slapshot. I don't even know if I'm sorry. I don't even know if Goon is like in the top 5 because there's some other really good movies. I mean, Youngblood was good.
Youngblood was
Miracle
good.
was good.
Miracle's great.
I mean, there's some really good movies.
My favorite, one of the best opening scenes ever in a movie, Mystery Alaska.
Yeah.
That's a
Skating
good
up
one.
the river.
Yeah.
Right. That was just incredible.
was a well-done movie,
again, far-fetched. The Rangers flying into Alaska to play on a pond, but great movie.
Yeah.
Of course, if they make Penalty Box, my movie, that might overtake Slapshot one day.
It could.
I just got to find someone to make it.
There you go.
But that's a story for another day. But yeah, so one thing I want to bring up right away because we're talking kind of medical stuff. What you're doing for your best friend, we got to talk about this, and I'm glad it's coming up earlier than later. You're donating a kidney to your best friend to save his life, and you know what? That just goes beyond anything that could happen in a hockey rink.
You're right. So, I mean, realistic in life, right? I mean,
Yes.
we've talked about movies and hockey, and, it's all fun and games, but, this is real. My best friend, John Fratazio, in fact, his brother Adam, wrote the book Goon.
Yeah.
And so John comes from a family of 9. We grew up together in Hanover. And John's a couple of years younger than me, but we always palled around. And over the last 4 or 5 years, he has come down with kidney failure. He's not a drunk. He's not a junkie. He just naturally, his body's shutting down for some unknown reason. Just like, how do you get cancer? No one knows, right? How do you get type 1 diabetes? Your pancreas just closes. How?
Yep.
Right.
So John's kidneys are failing. And his whole family, we all get tested, our neighborhood friends, and I just happen to be a match right from the beginning, from a simple blood test.
Wow.
A year later, I've been doing testing for a year now, and every test they put me through at Beth Israel Hospital in Boston, I pass everything.
That's awesome.
I'm grateful. I'm lucky that I can help my friend.
That's amazing.
And of course, it's a story because not only are we best buddies, he's a cop on the South Shore in the town of Hanover. I've been a cop for over 30 years in the next town over in Hanson, and there's a lot of great little feel-good moments about the whole thing. But I mean, the bottom line is, if you could have helped your best friend or you,
100%.
Of course you're going to do it, right?
Yep.
You can't say no.
No.
And it's not like I'm donating or giving up something that could jeopardize my life.
Right.
Like you can live a healthy life with one kidney, which is what he's going to do. He's going to feed off of my one. I'm left with the other one, and we're both going to live for a long time.
It's awesome.
That's awesome.
The other factor that's really played into this is that I'm a weirdo. I'm like an enigma because I've never really drank. I don't party. I don't drink booze. I don't do drugs. I don't smoke weed. I'm just one of those guys. I don't know why.
My cousin's like that. My
I just
cousin
don't.
Aldo's
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
So I've always played sports, but I've just never really been one of the guys. I'll go to the bar and I'll hang out with everybody.
Yep.
I'm just not throwing them down. I'll have a spring water. Or I'll
I
have
played in a golf tournament with you.
Yeah. So I mean, again, I know it's a weirdo, right? I'm a weirdo.
No.
But for today's sake, the doctors have told me, Doug, your kidneys are so pure because you've never done anything to them. You've never harmed them. So he's really getting a high functioning percentage kidney that you're left with the other one. So you're both going to be fine.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's incredible.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's just a great story, and I commend you for the courage and the just to give that up for your friend.
And
we'd like to
again-
say everyone would do it,
Right.
But let's be honest, a lot of people out there probably wouldn't take that risk.
Yeah, and
you
again,
know?
like I don't want to get this, say this the wrong way, but I'm not donating my kidney to like Harry Brown in Iowa. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, right.
Like, I'm not putting my kidney on a list.
Right.
And I feel bad
Right.
for that poor guy in Iowa. I get it. Like,
Yes.
he's probably got a family, and everyone's on a list waiting. But if it wasn't my best friend or a family member, I
great
probably
point.
wouldn't be doing it.
Right.
So, I mean, there is a line you draw.
Right.
But again, John's been, he's my best man at my wedding. I mean, we've been together, like I said, hanging out since we were 15 years old,
kidding.
raising hell.
Right
and,
on.
you know, he deserves it.
Yeah, that's
So
awesome.
many more.
If
Raising
Harry
hell.
Brown in Iowa is watching, we
Sorry, Harry.
you're going to have to find a kidney somewhere else, kid. I don't know what to tell Harry. But now let's get into the hockey thing, right? So your story is unique in that, like, Gino played hockey since, what, 3, 4? I
Yeah,
did the
since
same
I
thing.
could walk, yeah.
You didn't. And to come in the way you did and become a fighter is just, it's kind of unheard of, really.
Right.
I mean, it's worthy of the book. How did that? I know you were a boxer.
Right.
What other sports did you play growing up?
A lot of wiffle ball.
Oh,
Dad's
yeah.
a killer. Backyard wiffle ball
Yeah.
player. But
Could have went pro if there was a
you
league.
know, I didn't play a lot of high school sports, unfortunately, because I was one of those kids that just didn't get great grades.
Okay.
So you got to keep up good grades in high school, or you ain't playing nothing.
Right.
And so I was like, C student. You
Okay.
know, sometimes D's, a couple F's. But anyway, so I found amateur boxing, which is outside of the school. And I was an amateur boxer. I did all the local tournaments growing up, New England Golden Gloves and things like that. But hockey was just something that I enjoyed as a fan. I just never played it, although all my friends did. Adam, who wrote the book, and
Yep.
John, and all of my friends, they all skated.
Right.
They played. Some of them played for high school, some of them played college. But the real situation started to turn for me when Adam, I'm like 18, 19 years old, and Adam's like, you should learn how to skate because with your boxing and fighting background, if you ever learned how to just keep your balance long enough, you could probably fight. And not that I'm going to the NHL, I mean, obviously, but minor league hockey, there's all kinds of levels, as we know.
Yeah.
Even the bottom level, there's some really shitty skaters.
Oh, yeah.
You could maybe just hide, but fight. And so it started off, like that. Like, let's get Doug on the ice, and we're going to teach him balance, and we're going to work on fighting. And we used to drop our gloves, and we would practice fighting
Yeah.
on the pond or on a Friday night in Pembroke or whatever, we'd rent ice. I wasn't skating with a puck. I wasn't doing drills. I wasn't shooting on a goalie. All I was doing was dropping my gloves and learning how to square off and fight.
Working on your craft.
Wow.
And that's it. And for 2 years, I did that from the age of 20 to 22.
Wow.
But in the meantime, of course, I'm doing stops and starts and little kid drills.
Yeah.
I'm taking skating lessons in Pembroke with that legendary guy. He just passed away, Leo. But anyway,
Leo, yeah.
But anyway, I used to show up on a Tuesday and a Thursday night at 6 p.m. $20. I was skating with kids that were 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. I'm 20, 21, 6'2", 250.
That's awesome.
That must have been
Stumbling all over the place. But I told them what my angle was. I said, listen, I want to try to learn how to skate well enough that I can fight and maybe try out for a minor pro team. And he was like, whatever, buddy. Just
Right.
give me your $20.
Yeah.
Go on out and fall down. See you later.
Don't take out any of the kids.
Unbelievable, right? Unbelievable. But yeah, I mean, it was certainly a long shot. And when I was 22, I played in my first real organized hockey game with a referee. It was the Boston Men's League.
Okay.
And there was a guy from Hanover that actually ran it. I can't think of his name. I'm drawing a blank. I'm sorry for that. But
all right.
he ran this league, and he owned all these teams. And I went out, and I tried to play hockey to learn the game.
Right.
That was the real purpose, not really to fight at the beginning. But when I realized that I sucked and I couldn't skate and I couldn't keep up with these guys, well, then I started just trying to body check people and start fights. I said, well, I'm going to just start learning my real craft. And then it just kind of snowballed. Yeah, so
That's awesome.
Very good.
insanity.
I mean, because I've fought on the ice. You fought on
Yeah,
the
I've
ice.
fought a couple times. Yeah.
And it's not like a fight in the street or in the playground because
Right.
you're on too thin blades.
Right.
Like I know
And
a
I'm
lot
used
of,
to those fights. I'm used to street, on the street,
Yep.
in the boxing ring, flat-footed,
Yep.
great balance, no issues.
Right.
This was a whole nother world.
Oh yeah, it's a whole nother. It's a different thing because you have to have the balance.
Yeah.
and be able to punch and be able to take a punch.
Right.
I mean, you know,
Right.
so it's just remarkable that you at 19 you started skating, and then
Right.
you ended up
By the time I
playing
was
pro hockey.
24, I was in the East Coast Hockey League when I was 24.
And that was with the Carolina Thunderbirds, right?
Yeah.
Now, when you were there, I believe Gino's dad did
He
a few of
was.
your games.
He was.
So on the write-up,
Yeah,
he's like,
yeah.
make sure you tell him about the time in Winston-Salem.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, yeah.
Yeah, my first night in Winston-Salem, I got brought in. They had a tough guy who just got his ass whooped, and he quit. He just didn't want to do it anymore, and he went home. And so I got a call from a friend of mine from the Boston area. His name's Mike Kuzmich. Everyone knows him as
Cuzzy.
And Cuzzy calls me up, and I used
Quincy
to skate.
Shinny legend.
I used to skate Quincy Shinny with Cuzzy, and he calls me up and he says, "Hey, listen, would you want to come down here and try fighting? Because this kid that we had quit, and I'll throw a name at you, which is hysterical. His name is Billy Heward. He went on to play in the NHL.
Really?
He was one of the toughest motherfuckers to ever play in the NHL. You can easily find his name.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
just
I
came out
remember
with a
the
new
name.
book.
I remember
He just came out with his own book a little while ago. He's doing great in life. He was a solid guy. But he went home, didn't want to do it. 19-year-old kid, 20-year-old young kid, you know, bottom of the barrel, minor league hockey.
Yeah.
And so he opened the door for me. And he actually came back later on that year. He changed his mind and said, "Can I come back? I made a mistake."
Right.
And he did. And
His
he
dad kicked him in the ass.
maybe, but
Yeah.
he came back. He played in the American League, played in the NHL, played for the Bruins.
That's
He
awesome.
played for like 6 different NHL teams. He was
Wow.
a legitimate tough guy, really good tough guy. But anyway, I had an opportunity. So Cuzzy, I said, "Yeah, I'll come down." So they brought me in, and my very first weekend, we had 2 games, one on a Friday night, one on a Saturday night. Now I'm from Boston,
Yeah.
the area. And I'm going down to like legitimate hillbilly redneck country.
Oh, yeah.
Right? North Carolina. Now, they don't know anything about hockey. They don't even know what offsides is.
Oh, sell beer and pizza.
That's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And if you don't have a fight in this game, win or lose, they don't care.
Right.
But
right.
there better
That's
be a
what they
fight.
do. Yeah, that's why they
because
do.
that's what these rednecks want to see.
Yep.
So in comes Yankee Doodle from Boston, right? And my first night, I fight 2 of the known tough guys for the first team, and I actually do very well.
Nice.
And the second night, which is Saturday, another team comes in, and I fight 2 of their tough guys, and I do very well. And over the weekend, I'm like an instant sensation.
Oh, yeah.
But your old man, I see your father for the very first time on the Friday afternoon
Yeah.
after the morning skate. And your father comes up and says hi to me. He introduces himself to me. "You're from Boston?" I said, "Yeah." He starts telling me who he was. And I'm like, wow, what a small world. Like, here's this other guy from Boston, reffing and linesman and,
Yeah.
you know, all the way down here. And your father turned out to be a saint for me because he not only helped me on the ice, he was almost like a coach. Because, listen, all I wanted to do was fight. But I wasn't out of control as a fighter, but I just didn't know the real rules
Right.
and the regulations and how I could get myself in trouble by either being mouthy or being too aggressive when the linesmen come in, like I'm still trying to break free. And your father was great because he kind of would say to me, "Listen, when the fight's over, the fight's over. Like, I don't want you trying to pull away from the linesman. I don't want you to be a wild man.
Right.
I don't want you in the box acting up.
Our safety, right?
Yep. Just break up, right to the box, sit down, shut up for your 5 minutes. You'll get back out again, and you can do it all over again."
Right. You
And
get
so
3 of them, right?
and I'll never forget that. So I absorbed all that, and I was trying to learn from your father, who was obviously established in that league as an official.
Yeah.
And I think that's one reason why it always carried over year after year for me, but how I would always get calls from other teams. I did not deserve games in the IHL. I definitely did not deserve games in the American Hockey League. But I had a reputation as a clean fighter. I wasn't
Right.
an asshole. I wasn't dirty. And I wasn't a problem to the officials.
Right.
So I might not have been winning my fights, but I was willing to fight.
Yeah,
And teams
yeah.
will take a chance on you. They'll say, "Well, we just want a dog chuck a piece of meat out there to take out the other guy. What do we
Right.
care if he wins or loses? He wants to fight, let him fight."
him.
Right.
But he's not a problem either. So that was huge. So your old man, again, was great to me.
friggin'
Yeah,
awesome.
because he kind of gave me some insight that I never knew because I'm so new.
Right.
Yeah.
And he tells a story. So one of your first games, it would have been your 3rd fight, and he goes, "Dougie, just go stand in the corner and don't do nothing, so I don't throw you out."
Yeah, so back in those days in the East Coast League, you could have 3 fights in a game.
Yeah.
before you get thrown out.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you could fight 3 times tomorrow night and 3 times Sunday.
That was my first year in the American League.
Yeah.
Guys like Joel Recklich, he fought 3 times in one night in Hershey. He took on 3 heavyweights like Cody Bass, Lazard, and then Tim Spencer.
Right.
All 3 in one night. It was, and they were marathons.
Yep.
The kid just went and went.
Yeah, he was very tough. He had some really good fights with Milan Lucic.
Yeah, when he got up, when he got called. My first year in the
training camp.
My first year in the Coast League, he was in Utah. He got brought up to the Islanders to fight. Yeah.
And crazy, right?
Nuts.
But that rule in the East Coast League, you're allowed 3 fights, but I think it was with the 3rd fight comes the game misconduct.
Game misconduct,
Which means I couldn't play the next game type of thing.
Right.
And I remember your father skating up to me and saying, I know you're trying to get after that guy over there, but you can't have a 3rd fight because I'm going to have to give you a 10-minute misconduct and you're off the ice and then you can't play tomorrow night. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I remember like getting next to this guy that I wanted to fight, but just kind of standing there and we just grabbed each other, but we didn't really fight because I didn't want to lose out on the next night.
Right.
So I wouldn't have known that. I would have gone right after him and said, fuck, who cares?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, who cares?
Yeah.
But I had to try to be somewhat smart.
Right.
You know, yeah.
I used to do that when I go to places, and I would look at the roster, see where the guys were from, because you need like it's almost like an ally out there.
Yeah.
Like having you can send a message through, hey, tell number 10 to cut the shit or whatever the case may be.
Right.
And then the coach say, hey, will you tell your coach this or send a message or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's so helpful and valuable because I remember like Darren Hadar when he played at UNH, he was playing for Chicago. And everyone was like, oh, he's a pain in the ass, mouthy, this and that. I went right up to him.
Yeah.
I go, hey, Dick Umilli says hello. And he goes, oh, no shit. Dick Umilli didn't tell him hello.
Right.
I just wanted to get him, oh, you're from Boston, boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
So instead of him yelling at me, he would come up, hey, Gino, and he'd tap me on the pads and go, hey, what do you got? Or, hey, can you watch 15 on the other team? He would be sending me the messages.
Yep.
And the communication and the rapport with that team that night was very easy.
Right. And I had my teammates who were telling me who you're looking for tonight. Like, you know, you want to look for number 11 and number 10. That's their tough guys, and that's who you're looking for. But your father would say to me, and if you can get number 9, too, because he's an asshole. Like, you know what I mean? And you can just picture your father saying that.
I may or may not have done that in the Coast League when I played.
Like
If
you get an extra shift in the 3rd period and you guys are up or down by 3 or 4 goals and the game is, who cares who wins it?
Right.
If you can get number 9 for me on the side, I'll buy, whatever.
That sounds just like Gene.
Great stuff. Just minor league hockey. Though,
good
stuff.
That's good stuff.
You know?
Well, one thing we talked about as referees, we always got along like the true goon. Because non-hockey people think they hear goon and they think immediately, oh, that guy must be an asshole.
Right.
But most of the goons, most of the tough guys,
They were always
were the easiest ones to deal with.
Yeah.
And had that, rapport and that respect where, if one of them was going nuts and you said, hey, enough, they'd stop.
Right.
And what kind of you seem to have that rapport.
Well,
with
again, like
referees
we
too.
mentioned, I mean, I had a boxing background. I was
Right.
confident in my fighting. That wasn't even an issue. My issue was balance and just I don't want to fall down and look like an asshole. But like I just said, your father was great at the very first day, telling me how I should conduct myself.
Right.
No one else was telling me that. And that was from an official's perspective.
We're
So
like
I appreciate
coaches
that.
out there too.
Of
Like
course.
we're not only like, and I hate when coaches go, "Don't talk to my players." I'm like,
Right.
why not?
Right.
Yeah.
You're just saying what I'm trying to do.
Like,
Like,
if you're-
why is the referee talking to my
Right,
fucking
but you
player?
see some guy sticking another guy, you're going to skate by that guy and say, hey, Smitty, cut the shit, or
Right.
I'm going to blow a whistle on you. Knock it off. Keep your stick down. And that's kind of coaching.
Right.
But if you don't hear that, you don't think you're doing anything wrong.
Or if the kid comes zips by you and goes, "Hey, wake the fuck up," and I could just simply go like this,
Right.
Or I go up to him
Right.
and say, "Hey, dude, you're not doing that tonight.
Right.
How about you come up to me and ask me a question,
Yep.
or you talk a little bit more professional,
Yeah, exactly.
Or I'm just gonna zing you. So
Right,
here's your
right,
warning, right?
right.
And then the coach goes, "What the hell was that about?" I'm like, "Well, this is what he said to me, and this is what they
Yeah.
appreciate that."
But,
Yeah.
I mean, to answer your question, I think you're right. I mean, the goon term was just a slang mocked that you were given back in the day. You know,
Right.
I wasn't a goon. I wasn't out there, purposely and maliciously hurting people.
Right.
I just did my job. I dropped my gloves and fought the other team's tough guy. I wasn't going after, like,
You were going after skilled players.
No, I wasn't going after Sidney Crosby or that type of player. I was going after the other tough guys.
Right.
But there are players that are probably not considered real heavyweight fighters who are the shit disturbers who are your problem.
Oh yeah,
as
no
an
question.
official.
And a lot of those guys won't drop the gloves. Like
Right.
when they get called, when the bell rings, they're the ones that skate away or jump behind the linesman.
Right.
And then they become, a tough guy. And
Right.
those are the kids those are the kind that like number 9. you're like, you know what?
Yeah.
If he gets
But you remember
cross-checked
that
in the
guy.
head,
Right.
I didn't see it.
I might
you
not
know?
see that, right?
Yeah.
But you remember those kids,
Yep.
you know?
Yep. Absolutely. So now, who was the toughest person you fought in your career?
You know what? I hate to say this. For me personally, they were all tough. Because
Sure.
I came from Hackett's Pond in Hanover.
Right.
Like, who the hell am I fighting? So they were all tough, for real. They
You had to
really
be
were.
tough in those days.
Right.
Like if you weren't, you were.
Well, that league, for example, the East Coast League, when I started, it was the first year of the East Coast Hockey League. There were 5 teams. You played each other like 20 times for like a 60-game season or whatever the hell it was, 80-game season. And every team had 3 or 4 tough guys.
Yep.
And you had to fight all of them. You had to get through all of them at one point or another.
Yep.
So again, for me, they were all tough. And any win or tie that I got, I felt great. Now, trust me, I got my ass handed to me plenty of times. If I had to say one name in particular, I'll say my very first game, I got brought up to the American Hockey League, the AHL, the second best hockey league in the world.
That's
I get
amazing.
brought up to the Winnipeg Jets farm team in Moncton, New Brunswick, and I'm going to fight a guy named Frank Bialowas. He was the heavyweight champ of the league at the time. He was known as Frank the Animal, and he was a really tough guy. And I had guys on my team when I came into Moncton the very first day. Andy Brickley was the captain there.
Oh, no kidding.
So
Brick?
Brick was there. He was the captain of this team. I had Todd Copeland, who was an assistant captain. Todd Copeland now owns all kinds of car dealerships in
Oh,
Brockton.
that's the same Copeland?
Yep.
I bought my first car off of Copeland
Great
deal.
guy.
I'm not kidding.
Yep, great guy.
Dodge Dynasty.
Yep, great guy. So I had some local guys that I kind of knew of or knew of me, and they were all telling me the same thing. Go after this guy over here or that guy. Stay away from Bialowas. Like, he's that tough. Well, I tried to do what they said, and I tried to go after these other guys, but they just told him to screw. You know, you're here for one night. We know your deal. Get lost.
Right.
But I ended up getting out there against Bialowas, and I said the same thing. I said, hey, hey, champ, how about a shot? And he just looked right at me. He goes like this. He goes, no problem, Smitty. Just keep it clean. And I knew what keep it clean means, right?
Yeah.
Don't gouge my eyes. Don't pull my hair. Don't be cheap.
Right,
Just
right.
square off. Let's fight. When it's
Yeah.
over, it's over. And boy, I'll tell you, he was one tough, rugged, strong guy. Within like 4 or 5 punches of an exchange, I lost my grip on his arm. He got free, which made that beautiful cover of the book Goon. Huge black eye, twisted nose. He demolished me. Right? Wow. But I was in heaven.
Right.
I just played in the American Hockey League, and I don't care if I got my ass kicked. It was awesome. I made it from a pond. That's awesome. So, again, probably my toughest battle was against Bialowas.
That's just an awesome story.
The kid-
and what a great attitude.
Well, the kid, J.J. Johnson, fought McGrattan.
Oh, yeah.
And he thanked him afterwards.
Yeah.
He goes, you were my idol.
Yeah, listen.
Like,
if I
he thanked him.
saw Bialowas like later on that night, I would have bought him a beer at the bar.
Right.
Like
Yeah,
he
yeah.
just gave me, and all these guys have been there before, right? Bialowas was
That's
there
your
once
Stanley
before,
Cup.
Right.
Right. He was there trying to chase somebody, a veteran, tough guy in his day too,
Yep.
trying to make a name for himself.
Right.
I want to stay in the league, and I got to prove for my team I'm willing. I knew I was only in Moncton for a weekend. I wasn't there possibly for the rest of the year.
Right.
I was just filling in for Stanley Cup champion winner Kevin McClellan, who was their tough guy. He was out injured for the weekend.
Wow.
But they had no one to go against this other team, so they brought me in for a weekend. I knew I was going home. But again, to your point, if I saw Bialowas, I would have shaken his hand.
Right,
Yeah, I would have bought him
absolutely.
dinner.
Right.
Said, hey, thank you.
That
You
was
just
awesome.
you just made my life.
Yeah.
My one game, you just made my life. Yeah, that was my NHL.
Yeah.
That was my call-up.
Right.
That's awesome.
Now, when you got called up, did you get a paycheck or did you ask to keep the shirt?
I was presented a paycheck, and I had said to the coach, great guy, I think his name was Dave Farish, and I said, Dave, listen, I really don't want the pay. I want my jersey.
It's fucking awesome.
And he's looking at me going, you want your jersey? I go, listen, I'm never going to play in the American Hockey League again,
Right.
most likely.
Right.
I said, and I told him the story. I said, listen, I was skating on a pond like 2 years ago.
It's so cool.
I want that jersey. He goes like this, keep your check. I'll give you the jersey. So I walked out of there. I walked out of there with a check. I walked out with my jersey. I walked out of there with my socks. They gave me my socks.
Nice.
I walked out of there with Kevin McClellan's gloves. Kevin McClellan gave me his gloves for that game.
Oh,
he
that's
said,
cool.
listen, you're going to want some gloves that are nice and broken in, that come off easy. I'm like, awesome.
Vaseline in them.
Yeah, you don't want brand new gloves that are
Right.
stiff and you can't get them off quick enough, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I walked out with like a bag
That's
of shit.
awesome.
It was
Oh, that's
incredible.
awesome.
Yeah, and they're all over my wall right now at my house.
Oh, that's
That's so
wicked
cool.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Yeah.
Now,
That's
you
awesome.
it's something that not many people realize if they're not in hockey is the code. You kind of alluded to it when he said just keep it clean.
Right.
There is a code among fighters.
Right.
And it's one of those things like the guys who don't follow the code
Yeah.
are those guys that are assholes that you
True.
know
That's
end
true.
up getting themselves
I
in
can
trouble.
I've used this analogy and I've used this example before, and if you've heard it, I apologize. But I got a second chance at Frank Bialowas the very next year. Frank had gone from the Toronto organization to the Philadelphia organization during the summer. He was a free agent. They picked him up. They put him in Hershey. So anyway, or Philadelphia, the Phantoms. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
yeah.
Yep, the
Phantoms,
Phantoms.
yeah.
Phantoms. Okay, yeah.
So anyway, this is the next year. All of a sudden, out of the blue, I get a call from the Springfield Falcons in Springfield, Mass. And the coach says, hey, I'm a friend of so-and-so. He told me about you. Would you be willing to come in for the weekend? We need a guy to fight. I said, yeah. Absolutely. My career
bag
has
will
now
travel.
my career has now gone to like being like a hired gun. I'm home, I'm working a side job, I'm doing cutting grass, I'm doing whatever I'm doing, but every once in a while I'll get a phone call to come into a team for a weekend to fight. And this was great for
That's
me. Like I
awesome.
love this. Of course I want to be with a team the whole year.
Right.
But it just wasn't in the cards. I wasn't a good enough player, I wasn't a good enough fighter to stay on a team for a long time. It just wasn't the way it was. But I was good for a night. Right? So anyway, I go to Springfield and I play for the Falcons and I play against Frank Bialowas. I'm getting a rematch.
Wow.
I'm like, oh my God, this is unbelievable. Like, what a dream come true.
Yeah, right.
Like, this guy just handed me my ass last year.
And you want to fight him
I
again?
want, well, you know, because I had,
love it.
I had like a boxer's mentality,
Yeah, yeah.
right? All right, I lost round one. Well,
Right.
there's 5 rounds to the fight, or there's 10 rounds to the fight. I'm going to get my shot in eventually, but I'm going to keep going unless you're carrying me off the, the ice.
Yep.
So I line up next to Bialowas, and I said to him, I go, hey, how about a rematch? Now, this guy's a great guy. He really is a good guy. And he says, listen, Smitty, I can't go tonight. My hands, they're all banged up. Because this guy fought all the time.
Right.
He says, I shouldn't even be in the lineup. I can barely even hold my stick.
Yeah, that happens a lot. Yeah.
Yep, and it has. Minor league guys, right? They play through a lot of pain. They carry a short roster.
Mm-hmm.
1 or 2 guys are out. Now it comes down to, well, who's the less injured? Who can suck it up and play? Because we're
Back up
shorthanded.
goalie, get out there.
Right,
Yeah.
that happens a lot. And so I said to Bialowas, I'm like, come on, man, what are you kidding me? Like, I've seen you fight. I know you're good. You can throw with both hands. Like, so what if you get one bad one? He was like, I just can't go, Smitty. I can't. Now, there's the code you spoke about. Now, I could have easily said, you know what, fuck you.
Yeah.
I want my rematch.
Right.
And I'm almost glad you're hurt because I'm going to try to take advantage of that.
Good point. Some
But
guys
you-
would do that. Yeah, you're right.
But you know what? You skate away, you go back to the bench, and you just say, you know what? There's a code, there's an honor there. I'm not going to be an asshole and jump this guy.
Right.
Probably still would have beaten me, but nevertheless, it was the right thing to do. And coach was like, what happened? I told him exactly what happened, the conversation we just had at center ice. We talked.
Yeah.
And he says, all right. And Frank was great the rest of the night. He wasn't running around like a madman, acting like an asshole.
Right.
He just was playing within his capabilities just to try to get through the night. So for that, I respect the guy. I mean, he's a legitimate warrior.
It's a great story because it shows people that don't understand. Like, the people out there that say, oh, hockey, the violence in hockey and the fighting.
I mean, there's
and
an
all that bullshit.
intimidation factor there.
Yes. But that code, it's not like guys are going out there and just jumping people
Yeah,
and
purposely.
suckering people. And
Right.
it happens.
Right.
But it's not, that's not the idea of it. Because we've talked about fighting having a place in hockey.
Sure.
And how, hockey's going to a place where it's going to be non-existent soon. And that's not going to be good for the sport. There is that policing aspect that needs
Right.
to be there. And we've talked about it on past episodes where you got guys like Crosby getting crushed when Gretzky didn't get crushed because McSorley come out and beat the bag out of him.
Right.
And that's something that I don't think people understand.
Yeah, and it's sad. I'll even go a little further and say maybe fighting itself can somewhat be tamed, but to play physical and to play heavy and to play hard Like, for an example, we watch our Bruins, right? We love our Bruins. But look what happened the last couple of years, right? They lose to Florida because they just get out-muscled.
Yeah.
They lose the 7th game at the Garden against St. Louis years earlier.
Oh, they got.
Yeah.
They got out-muscled. So it wasn't... I get a fight every once in a while definitely needs to happen.
Right.
They have to police themselves. They have to. The officials can't see everything. They miss shit that happens all the time. And it blows up. But just to play hard and heavy and physical, you definitely need that aspect. But in return, sometimes that brings fighting.
Right.
Right.
And fighting, sometimes it happens just to, charge the bench up, charge the building up.
Doug Smith would get a shift when his team was down 3-0.
Right.
Like, I got no reason to go out there. It's 3-0.
Right.
We're losing. But the coach will say, go out and have a fight. Go find your guy. Go get the crowd, your home crowd, get them rolling, get our boys going.
Yep.
Just don't lose.
Right.
Because you're going to,
Right.
you might as well just pop the tire.
Now it's 4 rip.
Yeah, right.
Right.
And trust me, that's happened before.
Yeah.
I'll get the boys up, coach. And you end up in the bag on your eye in the penalty box saying, oh, no.
What's funny is you mentioned the Game 7 and against St. Louis a couple of years ago, and it's like a visceral pain in your stomach.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, and I still don't know why Backus didn't play in that game.
Yeah.
He was the one guy that had that weight, that had that, played heavy.
Right.
But it's just funny how connected we are with our sports teams.
Yeah. And the certain things you do remember.
It's like getting a flick.
I hope the Caps get rid of Wilson. He looked good in the Bruins uniform.
Yeah, I mean, who knows what's going to happen? But the
They need to
Bruins
get tough.
they need something.
Yeah.
Right? They definitely need something. I think they had their hopes up for Frederick, but I think he's evolving into a player more.
Yeah.
And trying to stay away from that aspect of the game.
I think they put a leash on him a little bit.
Yeah, I'm sure they did. They probably
Because
clamped down.
he was running reckless too.
He was.
Just
And he
being-
was trying that role.
Right.
And he was trying to add that, part of his resume to the game. And the fans, of course, we're thirsting for it, right? We're Boston.
Yeah.
Boston,
Oh, yeah.
Philadelphia. I mean, you want those type
those
of
are the
guys.
best, yeah.
You want a guy like that.
Oh, yeah.
They're just tough to find now. The game's changing.
Yep.
You know?
I think Frederick, he has the heart of
Yeah.
the fighter, but not the size.
Right.
And he's skilled. What does he have? Like, he's already got 16, 17
He does
goals.
find his way around the net.
Yeah.
He does. Yeah.
So, now refereeing. You've done some refereeing.
I have, yeah.
We did a game together, the Bruins alumni, when we did the game
Don
for
Garcia.
Yeah.
Donnie Garcia,
right.
who's a legend.
Yeah.
And it was for the Matt Light Foundation.
Correct.
Which is kind of cool. And actually, later on this month, I'm doing the Fool's Night Out for Matt Light.
Awesome.
They
Nice.
do a comedy night every night, and this year it's at Encore.
Oh, nice.
in
I still have
March.
yet to be there. I haven't gone yet.
It's a good one. You should go this year. It's
Big time.
Anyone who's anyone in Boston comedy usually does the show.
Nice.
But yeah, so it was for the Matt Light Foundation. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was a lot of fun.
So why are
to be
you
out
doing
there.
it?
What the- I assume you mean the alumni game. You dick.
Yeah, but refereeing, so again.
I got that.
Hey, I can be funny.
Right.
It's all right. It's all right.
referring
I feel
back-
tougher with him here, by the way. I'll kick your ass.
Referring back to your old man, your father got me into refereeing.
That's right. I remember that.
I remember talking to him one summer saying, I'm just looking to do something in hockey. And he said, why don't you be a linesman?
That's right.
You don't have to be smart. You have to know all the rules as a
break up the
referee.
fights.
Well, as a referee, right?
Right.
You got to know your shit. But a linesman, hey, you shag the puck, you drop the puck, you blow the offsides. It's,
He gives you the old cell job.
yeah,
Yeah.
you've played enough hockey. You know the basics. I said,
Yeah.
So I remember going to like one of those clinics one summer
Yep,
and
remember that.
running my ass around with your old man, Paul Stewart, these
Yep.
other guys. And I remember him saying to me, what am I going to be doing? Like, Pee-wee kids hockey at 6 a.m. in Pembroke for $10. He was like, no chance. He goes, I'll take care of you.
Those are 65 now.
Yeah, exactly. But he started me off in my area doing junior hockey, which
Yep.
was very good hockey.
Very good.
And it was definitely a transition for me to become an official. He always say to me, stop watching the game and be a part of the game, because you're watching the game and then you're getting lost. You're not paying attention to what you should be doing because you're watching the game. And it took me a while to understand what the hell he was even trying to relay to me.
Right.
But once I kind of got onto it, I started loving it.
Yeah.
And then he hooked me up with a couple of great guys, Jay Durfee.
Durf's the best.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I started doing games with Durf. It was almost like his linesman.
Right.
And it wasn't like maybe a year later, I started getting games in the Federal Hockey League.
The Fed.
which was
That's
right
right.
up
You
my
worked
alley.
that. I remember that.
Yeah. So I would drive down to Danbury, which was the closest team
Trashers.
to us,
Yep.
the Trashers, and I'd go down with Durf and some other lines.
Durf would definitely call a dive.
Yeah, you would.
For my Facebook group.
And it would be great because I would reminisce about being Gene Bender. And
Right.
I would say to myself, now I can talk to these guys.
Now you can coach
I
them
would
up.
find the Danbury tough guy and I'd say, hey, you're going to go after, what's his name on the other team? Is going to be a fight tonight? What do you think? Because I'm the guy now who's going to be saying, let him go, or
Right.
am I going to break him up? Let him, and I was like on the other side of the fence now.
Yeah.
But I loved it. I thought it was great. Danbury back then, the hockey was nuts. It was all about
yeah.
fighting. It
Yep.
was all about the draw at the gate, right? We've all seen the
Absolutely.
documentary. The
Yeah, they're
documentary's-
not there for the hockey.
No, they could give two shits, right? And the
the
fans
documentary
loved it.
was crazy.
Yeah, but it was great hockey for me. And again, your old man hooked me up. It was
awesome.
a great time. I had a great time doing it. Yeah.
And now you do the alumni games now.
So I got in
Donnie.
with the Bruins a few years back. I was doing some charity events. I kept bumping into the same people involved with the alumni, like Frank Simonetti and some other people.
Oh, yeah.
And then I remember I had been friends with Donnie Garcia, who's been there a longtime official. And I saw him one summer and he said, would you ever consider coming out and, working with me? And I said, what are you talking about? He says, you know what, I'm getting older and just a lot of skating for one guy, even though the games aren't blazing fast.
No, but you got to go up and down
But you
still.
still got to hump up and down.
Yeah.
Shag the puck and so on and so forth. He goes, I've been talking to the alumni guys about possibly bringing on a second guy. And what do you think? And I was like, wow, what
That's
a
awesome.
great in.
Yeah, right.
And so I use my celebrity status with Goon, with all the different foundations and all the different charities that we play.
Yep.
And I interact with them on my end, but then now I'm with the Bruins doing officiating. So I'm getting the best of both worlds. It's really cool.
Yeah.
And I couldn't ask for better. You know all the guys, right? They're
Oh,
a great group of guys. Super friendly. They all played the game. They all know the deal.
My father does a few of them here and
He
there.
does,
We
yep.
went down last year. He did the Blizzards. The
Blizzard one.
Blizzard one.
Yeah, the Bog.
Yep, at the
Yep,
Bog. Yep.
yep.
So my daughter played that day.
Oh, no
This
kidding.
was last year.
Oh,
Yeah,
no
my daughter
kidding.
played. We stayed it was 2 hours later, and then they
Yeah,
were out in the ice.
yeah.
That was pretty cool.
Right. So the alumni guys, like I said, they're great guys to me. They've accepted me, and I couldn't be more grateful.
No, it was cool. That game we did over at Warrior.
Yeah.
You dress in the locker room with the Bruins.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
So I'm 5
You're
feet
not like a
from-
real outsider.
No, yeah, you're part of the gig. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
almost like being an official for like the Harlem Globetrotters,
Right,
right?
right.
And you're playing the Generals, it's just
Yeah.
you're out there, but you're not really calling penalties.
No.
I mean, for God's sakes.
No.
But
Dropping the puck.
Well, I
What
went to the
about-
refs room. I went to the refs
Yes.
room, and they were like, Mike, he goes, no, you're in the locker room.
Right.
So here I am sitting next to you.
I'm sitting next to Zdeno Chara.
Yeah, they got a
They
picture
look
of
at
Chara.
Chara.
I'm looking,
right? Yeah.
I'm looking at Chara. He's like, I don't know, 9 feet tall.
He's
and I'm like,
huge.
wow, man, this guy's huge.
Right.
And you only get to see a lot of them on television.
Right.
Yeah.
You don't really get to see them in person. But to see them all skate around, right? I mean, some of these guys are in their 70s, and they can fly.
And they still got some stick
They
skill.
really do.
They're really still
Some of these
sharp,
guys
yeah.
are very impressive, like Joey Mullen.
Yep.
yeah.
Christ, he's 70-something.
I know.
He's a Hall of Famer.
Yep.
And I mean, he scores every weekend. He
Yeah.
scores a goal because he's so fast.
Well, the stick skills.
Yeah.
We, Josh Dolan, our producer, we had the Boston Comedy All-Star team that played the Bruins alumni. This
Yep.
was back in 2014, 15, or whatever.
Right.
Lyndon Byers was involved.
Yeah.
And you go out there, and you don't realize, it's all tape to tape.
Oh, yeah.
It's all
yeah.
with zip on it.
Yeah.
And their legs might not move.
But it's
the
slow
same.
motion, but
Right.
they're still
They know how to
tic-tac-toe,
find each other.
Oh,
Yeah.
and it was just so impressive to be on the ice, and I got to take a face-off against Kenny Linsman.
Yeah.
And
so cool.
and it was kind of cool. Now it's kind of you're in there, and it's kind of you feel like you're a part of it more
Right,
than
right.
you're kind of like, oh wow, because Chara, I have a great picture with Chara that we used for the
that's
sponsor
right.
deck.
Oh, okay.
In
Yeah.
the locker room that day.
Yeah.
But it's kind of cool. You're just sitting there, and you realize hockey people are just the best
They're the
people.
best.
They
people.
are.
I
And
mean,
are.
they
There's-
really
there's-
are.
They're such regular guys.
Yep.
No one cares what your background is. There's no comparisons to anything. It's just we're all just here to have a good day for ourselves.
Everybody loves the rink.
Yeah,
Everybody just loves
And
being in the
it's a
rink.
fun day, and again, there's some sort of charity event involved, right?
Yep.
So that it's a good cause.
Yep.
So it's all fun. Yeah.
Oh no, that was a blast, and I got to reconnect with Al Peterson that day.
Oh, yeah.
he was the coach in Pensacola when I was down in the East Coast League,
nice.
and we had some laughs because we had some interaction down there. He was in that game. Actually, the Ice Gators. Now you had a couple of games with the Ice Gators, right?
Louisiana Ice Gators.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And that was the same year I was there, but we never were on the ice together.
Lucky
I
you.
did, yeah, well, no kidding, right? I did more of my games on the East because I was up in Raleigh.
Gotcha.
And with the Hammer.
Hammer.
Practicing hillbilly. But he
a lot of love in this
he was
podcast.
there. Well, he was there. Pensacola was playing at Louisiana, and in between the periods, the Ice Gator comes flying over. I'm standing in front of the penalty box. He jumps in the air and elbows the glass, fucking with me.
Right.
I had a duck, and I chased that guy around the ice and off the ice, right by Peterson to his door. And I'm slamming the door, punching the door. I'm snapping, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, I'll turn you into luggage, you mess with me. And Peterson's just standing there watching this. It's chaos, right? So Johnny O'Brien goes, let's go. So we walk back by, and Al goes, what'd he do? And I just look at Al, and he goes, because I don't want to do it.
Right.
But we had a big laugh about that because he remembered that.
Funny,
And
huh?
so that was a cool time. Because you were there at the time down south. That was all rock'em sock'em. You know, and they were the fighters in the East. Like Trevor Sen was a big one. I don't know if you remember Trevor
Absolutely.
Sen. Gowdy.
Yep.
Ron Gowdy was big. Roger Maxwell was probably the toughest player in the league at the
was a
time.
big kid.
African American kid that played
He
in
was a
Mississippi.
Big guy.
And it was crazy because he was like you'd see Maxwell jerseys everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
And I slid over to him. I said, Max, can you believe you're the favorite player in this
Right,
state?
down south.
Because that state, man, there's people there that still think they won the war, the Civil War, and he was a great guy. I mean, talk about a guy who was a fighter that was just he was such a great guy. So
All the fighters, most of them are the salt of the earth, good guys,
Yeah.
good people,
Yeah.
and you got to know them because you were always dealing with them.
Yeah.
Then time else to be in the box, you're grabbing
Yeah,
water,
yeah.
and you're like, hey, whatever, and you start yapping with them, you get to know them
Right,
and whatnot,
right.
and then like you travel with them, you see them out at the bar,
Yeah,
and those are the
exactly.
guys I usually end up talking to.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, that's good.
yeah, they're the good guys.
Yeah.
Now we have some video that we want to take a look at. Some video, and it's out there. We didn't have to actually dig too far to find this stuff.
I think I typed in Doug Smith in YouTube.
Yeah, we typed in Doug Smith Goon, and boom.
There you go.
But some of these are East Coast League, I believe.
Yeah,
right.
I'm sure,
And,
yeah.
and we'll just take a look at them. But what's interesting is not only your ability to throw a punch, but what I'm so impressed with is your ability to take a punch. Not to say that you got your ass kicked, but you could take a punch.
You know, I had someone point out to me years and years ago. They said, Doug, for all the fighting that you did in hockey and how new you were at it, those couple, two or 3 years you spent at the very beginning just learning your balance, you never see me go down.
Yeah.
I never lose my balance.
Right.
I might get punched in the face a dozen times and get stitches, but I never get knocked out. I never get knocked down. I never lose my balance and fall down unless like someone tries to wrestle me to the ground.
It's all the training you did.
Yeah, so it actually it paid off for me. That crazy way that Adam Fratazio thought back in the day to just work on this particular skill, and no one cares about you carrying the puck or going up the ice or receiving a pass. You're going to fight someone off a face-off all the time. That's how the coach is going to use you.
Right.
You're not going out and playing a shift.
Right.
So let's work on that. And I tell you, it always worked because even those hard fights that I really got walloped in, like the Bialowas fight,
Yeah.
Still stayed up.
I still stood. So I was.
This
obviously-
actually looks like one of your games, Gino.
Yeah.
Just absolute chaos.
Yeah, madness.
Mayhem.
This is in Johnstown. This is the famous War Memorial Arena.
yeah.
I got brought in for this last 12 games of the season for Johnstown to play with the iconic Steve Carlson from the movie Slapshot.
Yes.
He was the
Yeah.
coach,
That's right.
and he brought me in. He said,
There he is stepping up.
Yep,
You
stepping
saw-
up, the big
We
jump,
talked
right,
about this.
yes.
When
Yeah,
you
the
go
big
on,
step.
you have
that
to
was
jump
still
off.
there when I worked there.
Yeah,
Right.
that
And
was
and-
that was the way it was.
Yep. And so I'll be coming out of the box here. I'm the fool with the long mullet, with no helmet.
Was this the video you sent me?
This is a different one, actually. The one I sent you was a kind of a compilation of of fights. But I love seeing Johnstown because the War Memorial was just such a. It's crazy to be in that building, and with the movie being there,
Yeah, of
like we
course.
talked about it. Every
Right.
time you go there, like the first time you go there,
You're like,
you know,
wow.
like we mentioned Paul and Tim McCracken, and like you
Yeah.
walked through that door, that the garage
Yes.
door style
Yeah.
that they opened and all the fans
Right.
rushed in, and and he had done Reg took out the bounty on his head.
That's right.
A classic line.
Yeah, funny,
Dunlop,
right?
you suck cock. All I can get. We reenacted that, Johnny
Right.
O'Brien and I, because you have to when you go there.
awesome.
But yeah, that is it's fascinating, the balance part of it. And does that factor in? I'm sure it's got to be from boxing, because you have to keep your balance.
Well,
I
I mean-
never boxed. I got my
Yeah.
ass kicked a bunch, but never.
Yeah,
boxed.
I mean, listen, like I said, street fighting, you're in sneakers, right? Boxing, you're on flat foot. I mean, it's all the same in a sense. So just to
There we go.
just to be on your blades and not fall down, lose your. I mean, listen, I got to work with the Boston Bruins as a trainer for 12 years. I was in Providence. I taught guys how to fight. And I did that from the year 2000 to 2010, 2011. I worked with some unbelievable athletes.
That's awesome.
And even those guys, as good as they were, they would fall down during fights.
Right.
And they're way better skaters than I am. It's just the way it is. It's just such a hard thing to do.
You're right. You're toe to toe in every single one of these.
Yeah, not that one.
Not that one.
That was a one-punch win.
Yeah, that one didn't last long.
This was my first night. Your father's in this picture.
Oh, no kidding.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
That was my very first night.
That was hilarious.
Yep, that was my.
is awesome.
Yep, that would be your father in that picture. You might.
Yep,
be,
that was
might be
him
the little-
standing. Yeah,
Might be
that
the
was him.
portly guy against the boards with the popcorn behind him.
He was on a step stool too,
Yeah.
I think, because he
that's
needed
funny.
a little extra height.
But yeah, classic stuff, right? Such good old days.
But there's an example of the code. You just
Right.
banged him down. You could have
then
pounded
you let
that
him
guy.
up.
You
Yeah.
let him go, because
Right.
the fight's over, and that's what it's all
Yeah,
about.
there's my face after the Bialowas fight. That's the end of the third period. I'm talking to Adam. Adam drove from Hanover, Mass. to Moncton, 12 hours. He didn't realize there was an hour time zone difference,
Oh,
and
yeah.
he missed the fight by the hour. So he pulls in when the fight already
So he
happened.
didn't-
He already missed it. He missed the game. Fight happened in the first period.
So that's why you're telling him what happened
telling
on the
him what
video.
happened.
Oh, that is.
I was
So,
wondering what,
yeah,
what's
right.
going
So
on there.
we were able to get the actual game video footage of the fight itself, not through the team itself, but there used to be a show on television called AHL Weekly, and they would highlight certain games in the AHL. For whatever reason, they were at Moncton that night, and they filmed this fight. Adam found the guy up on the rafters and said, how much do you want? I
Right.
got to get a copy of that.
Right.
And the guy was like, don't worry about it. Just give me your address. I'll burn you a copy and mail it to you.
That's awesome.
And within a week, it was at our house. VHS tape, the real fight.
That's awesome.
And I'll never forget whoever that guy was. Because that's a real, Jesus. How am I ever going to relive that?
Right.
Unless
No.
I see it.
Yeah.
Right.
But anyway, yeah, so Adam drove to see the game,
That's
my
awesome.
first AHL game, and miscalculated the time zone difference and missed the game.
That's
Well, Moncton, New
unreal.
Brunswick. Went to Coho's ref camp up there.
no kidding.
Yep.
All right.
That was a great time.
I bet.
Yeah.
I bet.
We joked about, we talked about it, how video now is everywhere.
Oh, God,
Like
yeah.
you can't do anything without
No,
being on
right,
video,
right.
right? But back in the day when you played, when I refed,
Yeah.
more so when I refed than you refed, we used to get VHS copies.
Yeah.
Like I still have maybe 5 of them still trying to digitize.
Sure.
Just to, we didn't have the ability to
Right.
just pop it in or
course.
watch it after they get, nowadays.
I mean, today, geez, they're on the bench watching instant replay within a blink of an eye of it happening. They're already saying, "Oh, should I contest this? Should I call the ref over and make a?"
Yeah.
That's how technology is so
It's
incredible.
insane.
Yeah.
It's absolutely insane.
They got like a designated person upstairs.
Oh
to
yeah.
see if you're
Every
gonna-
team does too.
Yeah.
Every
Yeah.
team.
Yeah, you should. It's
Yeah,
part of the game
of
now.
course.
Like you have to.
Yeah.
Like, hey, should we challenge this
Yeah.
or not?
Yeah, every team has it.
Right, you
Every
have to.
team, even college, has
Right.
the video guy that watches
It's
and says
unbelievable.
whether
Yeah,
or not
right.
you should
They
challenge
should
it.
probably hire a referee, right? I'm dead serious. Like someone that
That
knows
would
the
make
rules
sense.
and
Right.
say, "Hey, you got to win this one or not?"
Right,
It's like,
right.
well, you probably won't win this one because it wasn't
Right.
direct contact or whatever. Right?
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
Dave Jackson does the commentary, doesn't he? Isn't
Yeah,
it Dave Jackson
yeah,
that does the
Coho does it
commentary?
too,
Coho,
yeah.
And you'll see maybe even on NFL football games, right?
Yeah, they come in. Yeah,
You're listening to like Tony Romo.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? And they'll call this other guy.
Dan
who's-
Blandino.
Yeah, and they'll say, "What you just saw the replay? What do you think?" And
Yeah.
then he'll give you his opinion. He's a retired official.
Yep.
That's cool.
Yeah, I
Interaction.
like that.
That's
Yeah.
great stuff.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
It's good informed information for people that
Yeah.
don't know what the hell's going
Right.
on. They're in the replay. Now you just got
Yeah.
to listen to two guys that have no clue what the heck they're talking
Right,
about.
exactly.
And then I'll actually bring a professional in. Like Dave Starman, who I've been in touch with to try to get on here. He used to come to the training camps in college, to the referee training camps to see what the heck we were talking about. So he sounded intelligent when we're in the booth, and he could, explain to the audience what's going on.
Right.
Say, he's like, I was at the camp here, and then that happened, and this is probably what they're looking for, and so inform the audience there.
Crazy.
Now, one tape I've always wanted to get, and I've talked about, is the Richmond-Hampton game. I held the penalty minute record in the Coast League, 304 minutes in one game. Hampton Roads at Richmond.
Wow.
25-minute long line brawl in the second period.
Wow.
Crazy. And Andy Van Hellemond he was my linesman in the first period.
No
Guy
way.
didn't show up. I've told the story on here before.
Yeah.
It's insane. And Andy took the tape because he was on the tape in the first period lining. So he didn't want anyone having the tape. So the tape went missing. And I still, if there's ever a tape I want to get, is that, because that line brawl
How'd
was
you do
one
the
of
game report?
most insane things ever.
bet.
Well, I didn't have the tape.
Yeah.
I said, Andy, he said, no, I'll
You go off the
hold
score
on to
sheet?
this one.
Yeah, you just
And
go off the score sheet.
never got the tape.
Yeah,
and if I could ever get a tape, that's the one. But leads me into my question: How many line bench brawls were you involved with? Did you have many of them?
I was involved with two. I was the instigator in both of them, unfortunately. Your father was the ref for one of them in Erie, Pennsylvania.
I'm going there tomorrow.
It's actually, it's actually on YouTube, that particular one. The horn blows for the end of the second period. Both teams come out, there's some chirping, everyone starts kind of milling around. And I'm the tough guy for Carolina, the tough guy for Erie's out there. We just somehow, through the group of players, we find each other and we fight. And
Game
it
on.
just sparks.
Yep,
Everyone
everybody,
else
yeah.
starts fighting.
We got to find that one.
And
Yes.
yeah, it's on YouTube. You can see it. And then at the end, when it's over, another 15, 20-minute gong show, I'm skating off the ice, going towards our door, and your father's at the door. And he's got his arms crossed like this, and he's just staring right through me as I'm coming towards him. And he says, he goes something like, "Thanks a lot, Smitty. You just screwed my whole night up."
A lot of that's a lot of writing.
A lot of
right?
writing.
Yeah, because almost everyone had their gloves off at some point. Not everyone fought, but it was a horror show. Now, who loves that? The fans, right?
Oh, yeah.
The fans went crazy. I got immediately suspended the next day for 7 games, and I didn't learn my lesson because my very first game back, I did it again. I started another bench clearing brawl with another team because I was trying to get at a guy who wouldn't fight me, but he had just speared one of my guys right in the cookies.
Yep.
And he was a tough guy. He was a fighter. And I was going crazy trying to get this guy to fight me. And I finally just said, you know what? I said to the coach, Coach, give me a shift. It's third period. I said, you got to give me a shift. And I remember skating around and skating a big circle like I'm in shinny hockey in Quincy. And I came right down the red line, down the center of the ice, and I dove right into their bench. And I got him.
Did you really?
Oh, I got him. He didn't even see me coming because there were so many players going around crazy playing the game. And I went around everyone and came right down the middle of everyone and dove into that bench. And I got that guy. And I got suspended for another 7 or 8 games.
And that started a whole massive brawl.
It was nuts because my bench came off to come over to me. Oh, yeah, it was
And it was
insanity.
all on the bench.
It was insanity.
That's nuts.
Thank God your father wasn't at that game.
Right.
Yeah, he would have hated me.
Right. He would have been in the bench.
That's awesome.
No, he wouldn't have.
No.
We need to find a video of that one.
Too much,
That's what
too
we need.
soon.
Too much, too soon.
Right. But you know what I mean? Back on those days, those are the crazy things you could kind of do.
Right.
It was
Yeah.
almost expected. Someone's got to get this guy that just speared our player.
Yeah.
And this guy isn't just like a regular player. He's a tough guy. He's a
Yeah.
fighter. He shouldn't be doing that.
Right.
Your fighter needs to come over and say to him or make a point.
Yeah,
You're
answer the
never
bell.
doing that again.
Yeah.
And that was the only way I could get him because his coach wouldn't put him out when
he
I was
knew-
out on the ice.
Yeah.
Because he knew I was going to try and get him.
Did he get a penalty for the spear or no?
He never
Did
got a penalty.
Oh, he got away with it.
Yeah, my guy got hurt and got taken off the ice.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it was like, and I had my guys on my own bench saying, Smitty,
you gotta-
Smitty,
yeah,
you got to
right.
get that guy. You got to get him. I'm like, how am I going to get him? I can't get out on the ice. I suck. Coach doesn't play me.
So you took it to him.
Yeah, I had to.
That's outstanding.
I got my guy.
Did you ever have that? Did you ever have anyone go into the bench
Or
in a
maybe
game?
like a penalty box fight in between the announcings. I've seen those a lot.
So
Yeah, you know what? I've had fights by the bench, and there was one time the door opened, and I went I just scooted right in, and then I jumped into the bench, and I stood on the door, so no one. I was because if that emptied into the bench, I was I'm screwed. So I just kind of put a buffer there and just didn't let anybody come over the top.
There you go. Yeah.
But there's been people throwing punches or something stupid from a bench, and you
From
throw
the
them
bench.
out, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but never someone diving into the bench.
I've had that kid
That would
Recklich, actually, the kid Joel Recklich one time, he came into a scrum and he Superman, Jimmy Fly Snooker off the top rope, and he came flying in like this, and he just dove into the scrum, and next thing you know, it was a big melee.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's a dive. Yeah, I remember him coming in over the top.
Yeah, I never. The worst thing at the bench that ever almost happened was John Brophy and Rick
that man.
Vive. So it was Hampton at the Stingrays, the South Carolina Stingrays in Charleston, and I didn't even know what sparked it. They were pissed off, and next thing you know, they're nose to nose at the benches, just lighting each other up.
Yeah, right.
And everyone thought they were going to fight, and I went over and I'm like, I go, Rick, you scored 50 goals in the NHL. He'll kill you.
Brophy was a madman.
And he kind of and I turned to Johnny O'Brien. I said, how much does a babysitter get these days?
Yeah.
What's the going rate? Because I think we should put in for it because this is nonsense.
Right.
And the two of them looked at me. I go, you're not going to fight.
Right.
So can we just end this and let's get back to the hockey?
Right.
And they both walked away. And afterwards, I was kind of like, shit, I wanted to see that.
Yeah.
You know, because Brof would have beat the bag
Brophy
out of
was a
Vive.
madman.
But that was the closest thing. That and, well, I think I told you when Robbie Concannon bit Andrew Shire on the finger.
Oh, yeah.
That was
He bit
our
my
buddy
finger.
Robbie Concannon from Southie.
Oh,
we
yeah.
talked about him on
Yeah,
a couple
yeah.
episodes ago. But they were fighting and they went into the bench. And next thing you know, Shire comes out. He bit me, and his knuckles just ripped open.
Wow.
And I knew what happened, but no one saw it because they were in the bench.
Right.
And
he tried to fish hook on something, right?
he fish hooked him.
Oh,
And because afterwards at the bottom, like Robbie goes, oh, I chomped him. And but that almost because when they were in there, it was luckily the linesmen kind of were almost in there too. But
But you have to see it. You
Yeah.
can't guess it.
Right,
But you
right.
see
Yeah.
I bite your own finger?
yeah, well,
right.
and back there, you had to go to the hospital, get tests and all
I
this
bet,
stuff.
I
It was it was kind of a big deal. But Robbie didn't get suspended. He didn't even get a penalty. I wasn't going to give him a penalty. I didn't see it.
Yeah, right.
I mean, even if I saw it, I probably wouldn't have given Robbie a penalty.
It's like all the USHL kids when I was out there. They used to be Ben is here, point night, all fatal assists. So anybody from Boston, they
Yeah.
loaded up with the assist that
Yeah.
night.
Well, I think what would be cool is if we got the three of us to do an alumni game together. Maybe mic'd it up. That would
that'd
be
be fun.
or we could do a 4-man. We get Donnie involved. That way
We'll all
Donnie
wear
wouldn't have to skate
armbands,
that much.
we'll all wear armbands like the.
We'll all have floaties on out in the pool. That'd be awesome. I think we got to make that happen. I think that would be good. We want to do an East Coast League game together.
Oh, wow.
That's what we want to make happen. Just
I don't want to come out of
retirement.
retirement just yet.
Yeah, no, he's not.
right.
He's not quite ready. I should retire. My knees are
Sell
telling
your
me to,
equipment.
but I know. I take up soccer or something. I don't know, but
So I wanted to bring up the Thursday night league, right? Remember you used to you used to play in that.
I did.
And then you coached, and that was a fun league.
was.
Now, any good stories coming out of that playing or anything?
Well, I mean, when I first started playing in that league, it was the Hingham Pro-Am
Right.
on Thursday nights.
Yep.
And I remember my very first night getting on a team. A guy named Bob Sylvia, who was a Quincy High School hockey coach. He had a team.
That's right. You
Bob.
played, yeah.
And I remember begging Bob, can I play in this league? Because there's so many tough guys.
People used to show up on a Thursday night in the summertime with their bags and sit around the glass and wait to get out, just someone to call them on a team.
Right,
Yeah.
trying to find a team that might be shorthanded.
Right.
Because a lot of times, they had a full roster, but a lot of times guys wouldn't show up.
Right.
It's a summer night.
Yep.
Guys are out drinking or golfing. They just don't show up. So if you're shorthanded and there's some sub, especially a lot of us guys that played, say, Quincy youth shinny hockey, we skated regularly, but we weren't that good to play in this league.
Right.
But I used to beg Bob Sylvia, Bob, let me play in this league because there's so many tough guys in this league. I want to try and fight somebody. And Bob knew that. He was like, I can't have you playing. Not only, you're not even good enough, first of all, but I can't have you going out there. This is summer hockey.
Right.
You can't be going out there trying to run guys. But you know what? When there's guys like Chris Nyland and Jay Miller and Lyndon Byers and Nick Fotillo. I mean, there's a lot of real established NHL tough guys
Right. They all
living
skated,
in our
yep.
area. They were all playing in this Thursday night league. And so Bob finally caved in, and he let me play. And, of course, right out of the gate, the very first night, the first game I get is against a team that had Lyndon Byers on it.
LB.
And yeah, LB. Now listen, LB would have killed me, right? Let's be honest. He would have killed me. But I'm 22, 23, and I'm trying to make a name for myself. I have Billy O'Dwyer from the Bruins, who's on LB's team, and he skates up to me and he says, listen, I know what you're trying to do. LB knows what you're trying to do. He's not going to fight you. He can't fight you. He's going to training camp in another month for the Boston Bruins. You're going back to Papagino's or whatever you do, right? Like, you're not, he can't fight you. And I at the time, I was so naive. I was like, no, fuck you. He's going to fight me.
Yeah.
I'm going to make him fight me. Win or lose, I'm getting this fight. But I obviously, as time goes by, you realize, I was an asshole.
Right.
And he was, of course, in the right. But that league is where I got noticed. I got noticed by a scout from the Buffalo Sabres.
They always have scouts. Yeah, the scouts would line
Yeah.
that place up.
There'd
It
be
was
all
awesome.
kinds of people.
man.
Right? There was Joe Lyons from the Bruins was
Yep.
always there. And
Joe
my
Lyons.
connection was a guy named Paul Merritt from the
Yep.
Buffalo Sabres. He worked for the Sabres for 40-something years.
All right, he's a great guy.
Great guy. He just passed away
Yeah, I
actually
know,
about a couple of
he
years
did,
back.
yeah.
Great guy.
Wow.
But Merritt pulled me aside after like a couple of weeks of watching me running around trying to fight guys. And he said, listen, this really isn't the place to fight, but I understand what you're trying to do. But if you want, I can make some phone calls for you. I can get you a job
Those
somewhere.
guys were the best.
Yeah, so he was the guy that actually got me down to Carolina in the East Coast League.
They hooked a lot of people up in
Yeah.
the Boston area
Right.
with finding teams
Right.
and all that. Yeah,
Because
they did a great job.
when I had spoke earlier about Kuzmich calling me saying, "Hey, we have an opening. What do you think?"
Right.
That was just the ball rolling, but it was this Merritt. I called Merritt and said, "Do you have any
great
juice?
guy. He was awesome.
Do you know
Wow.
anyone down here? Do you know anyone in this Carolina organization? Because my buddy just called me who's there. He says they need a tough guy." And Merritt made like one phone call. I was literally on the plane the next day. It was
That's awesome.
He was great.
Thursday night summer hockey.
Yeah.
And Cuzzy, like
that's
I used to skate
outstanding.
shitty all the time
Yeah.
with Cuzzy. Like
Yeah.
I used to pick up Mikey Ronan, so we had
Oh,
a
yeah.
goalie. He
Yeah.
skated a couple
all
times.
the
Yep.
time. Yeah, that was like my life.
Yeah, it was
for
awesome
real.
down there. Billy
That's
Tibbetts
awesome.
would show up.
Oh yeah, we had some great players down there. Some really good skilled guys.
Oh yeah,
it was incredible.
And like it was always great right before training camp. You
Yeah.
go down there, you see all the pros come down.
For
It's
real.
like a 2 hour. You
like
pay
real
$5.
guys, real NHL guys.
yeah.
Oh
like
yeah.
DePietro came down one time. Yeah,
yeah.
there was some heavy hitters.
But again, getting back to your question, that Thursday night league
Yep.
in Hingham, that place was a real hotbed for real serious hockey
it
players.
was in this area, and it was like it was an event too, right? They,
Yeah.
Like whoever had the first game always ran the cookout. And you had the beers and the
That's right.
cookout
Right.
afterwards.
6 teams.
Yeah, 6
right?
teams. They kept it small.
Yep.
And,
like you said,
a
it was
great,
always
great
it was that good that it was always scouted.
Yeah.
You would always see some
Yeah.
guy walking around with like, Calgary jacket or, Vancouver, whatever.
Yeah,
There was
right.
always some sort of a rep there and you're like, what's that dude doing here?
Yeah.
Because the hockey was that good.
Right.
Guys were looking for like just maybe one player to bring to camp. Something.
And there'd be crowds there too because
Packed.
and
And that league went on for a while because I
Oh,
remember
my
reffing
God.
that league when like Teddy Donato was
15.
playing in
Teddy
it.
played forever.
15,
Yeah, I reffed,
20 years at least. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. It was the real deal.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It was awesome.
good hockey.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, and Hingham would be banged out.
Yep.
Like
Yep.
the place would be full.
I remember,
and it's like
being
summer.
18 down there, just
Yeah.
like skating my ass off, and everyone's like calling me a little hero and this and that. I'm like, I'm out here with like pros. I'm like, I'm 18 years
Yeah,
old.
yeah.
This is the coolest thing
Yeah,
ever.
exactly.
That was always
right.
good. Like
They're
when
like, why are you skating so fast? I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
college kid would take a run at someone and they'd be
Right.
like, "What are you doing, kid?
Right.
We're out here to try to get a sweat.
Actually, Brooks Orpik fought Boyle one night there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Boyle did something or swung his stick or something, and Orpik
Yeah.
gave him a nice two-hander, and next thing you know, they went.
Yeah. I mean, for a league that wasn't supposed to be having fighting, so to speak, there were a lot of fights.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
they
They
were,
had,
yeah.
they had
Because
good
there was
traps.
just the competitiveness,
Well, you
right?
had Brendan
Guys-
Walsh down there too,
Yeah, I
right?
mean, guys
Yeah.
competed, right? And I mean, guys just tried and they pushed
Yeah.
themselves and they wanted to be better. And again, I hate to keep saying it, but
was
there were
competitive.
scouts. But there were scouts there.
There were. It was competitive. Like
Yeah.
the game would be 9 to 8.
Yeah,
Right. And
right.
every game meant something. I don't know if you guys probably put money on it or something, but
Right.
I felt like that's like it was a lot of high pressure. Like
Yes.
every game
Yeah.
meant something. The win meant something.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
they were all professionals.
Yes.
You see the kids nowadays. They just go out and they're out for a skate. Like
Yep.
they went out and they worked on
They
their
wanted to
craft,
win.
right?
For
like
real.
this is
Yeah.
my,
Yep.
my little keep my brain going,
Right.
energy during
Right.
the summer.
Right.
Say, hey, I'm still a hockey player.
I almost fought Donato
Really?
down there as a ref. Because and it wasn't, my brother was his dentist. I actually threatened to have a
How
hole
convenient.
drilled through his tooth. But it was the championship game. His team was supposed to blow out the other team. I was working with Paul Crump.
Oh, Crumpa, my
And
neighbor.
a kid shot the puck, and it tipped off one of Donato's teammates' sticks, and I waved it. And, of course, that, bled out the clock, and they lost by a goal. And he went nuts, coming right up to
I
me
got a
after the
tongue lasher
game.
from
And
him a few
fucking,
times.
and I said, is Lord Stanley getting rolled in here?
Yeah.
I go, you serious? And he just signed, like, the $1 million contract with the
They
Bruins.
cared about that league
Right?
for whatever reason.
Yeah.
It meant something to them.
And
It
I
was
said,
pride.
you just had a good skate in August, didn't get hurt, and you just signed $1 million contract, and I'm getting $75 to listen to this.
Yeah.
Go fuck yourself. And we went back and forth
Right.
like for like a couple minutes, people watching. But then afterwards, of course, he sent a beer up to the locker room, and
Oh,
we had
yeah,
a laugh
that was
about
always
it.
the
Yeah,
best
right.
part. Having
But
the
that
beer afterwards. was
they
doing
were
that.
so into it. It was like they couldn't.
Right.
You couldn't help yourself.
Right.
And but it was good hockey. It was a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
Man, that was a lot of fun. I love that league.
You know, what was a lot of fun was this episode tonight. It was a lot of
Yes,
fun.
it was a lot of
This
fun.
was outstanding. And you know what? We're gonna after we give the goodbyes. We're gonna play the video from Todd Angeli, the anthem singer, a good friend of ours. He did a Christmas party night thing at the Lynn Memorial Auditorium.
He did,
right?
yeah.
So you did a thing with Gordy Gronkowski.
Correct.
So they're reading. You probably hadn't even seen this.
I haven't.
They're reading. Twas the night before Christmas.
Yes.
Was that right?
Yeah.
So they start, and they're supposed to get into it and start a fight. And I got the ref jersey on. Jimmy Collett, another comedian, I gave him a ref jersey. And the funniest thing was, it was supposed to happen like right away, and Gordy kept going.
I know. He was dragging it
kept
on.
dragging on, and I'm going, come on. Everyone backstage is like, what the hell? But then they start fighting, and I come out, I blast a whistle, and
Yeah.
So
Oh,
we'll
that's
play
funny.
that on the outro.
Oh, that's cool.
But it was hilarious. But Jimmy jumped on Gronkowski's back, and it was pretty funny. But
Yeah.
we had a good laugh. But it was just,
Yeah.
it was a typical baseball player not understanding how to start a hockey fight.
Right.
Because I can see you're ready to throw your script down.
Yeah.
Like 3 or 4 times, and he's like, let me read another line.
Right, right.
I wanted you to sucker him just sitting.
This is the instigator.
Eagles, right? Well, Doug, thank you very much
Thank
for
you
coming
guys.
on.
Appreciate
This was
it.
Great.
Awesome. Yeah, great time.
Good luck
Great
with
time.
the
Appreciate it.
surgery,
Appreciate you.
and
Yeah,
thank you.
hope
Yeah, I
all that goes
appreciate
well.
that.
I'm sure we'll see each other at an event or
hope so.
something.
Definitely get on an alumni game.
We'll make that happen. We'll call Donnie and make it happen.
Yeah, it'd be
we'll,
cool.
we'll have Donnie on eventually. Yeah. Maybe episode 37. That would be a good one for him.
Where's Ron?
No, but I'm sure we'll see you around, and good luck with the surgery. We want to thank our sponsors, as always. We have Moby Cuts, our favorite barbershop in the country. We have Barati Irrigation, and, of course, Referee's Crease. And check those out. You can go to our website, chirpingzebras.com, and merch will be available. So you can order some sweatshirts or T-shirts if you want. Like and subscribe on YouTube, and check us out on all the social medias. The Instagram, the TikTok, the Facebook. I say it like that just to piss everyone off that's younger than me in the room. And that's going to do it. Check out this funny video of me taking Doug off the stage, and we'll see you next time right here on Chirping Zebras.